if I say attribution doesn't exist anymore, or there's no more attribution, that would be correct.
Reach for growth, reach for more. Performance marketing, hardcore. Tune in, listen, hear the law. Reach for growth.
Hello, welcome to a new episode of Reach for Growth. Hi Faheem, happy to have you here again.
Thank you for having me. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So Faheem, today we're going to have a heavy one about attribution. So let's start. What is attribution?
Simply put, attribution is the way of crediting different channels. Which channels help the sale? And attribution has been mostly used in e-com, although it's used in the other businesses as well. But the way it works is, let's say you're running campaign on 5 different channels. At the end of the day, how you want to attribute which channel brought the sale. And in modern world, with multi-touch attribution, you not only say this channel brought the sale, but also you divide it across and you give points to each channel. So simply put, it's which channel takes the credit. I like to explain it with football analogy. So we can go into more detail.
Let's go through it. What is the football analogy?
So think about it in a football game. So imagine this football field where there's one side and this one side. I will just use examples of big names so it's easier for people to relate. So there's Messi, Neymar, and Ronaldo playing in one same team. So there's a goalkeeper as well. So goalkeeper passes to Neymar, to Messi, and then Messi throws a big kick towards the end of the goal, and Ronaldo picks it up and throws it in the goal. Who do you think scored the goal?
Cristiano, I guess.
Yeah, which is like he should get the credit, of course. When you look at it from football point of view, a lot of people think, okay, Ronaldo does this because he gets like these nice passes. But if the goalkeeper was not there, would this goal have been scored? No. If Messi was not there, were they able to score a goal? No. And you can think of this analogy in a way where you can say, okay, Ronaldo would have got the pass anyway, because if Messi was not there, there would have been someone there who would have passed to Ronaldo to score the goal, right? So, like, that's how football works, right? Like, you get passes and you score goals. But then, think about a situation where there are 11 people playing. And then there's one amazing pass that was not possible that Ronaldo got and he scored the goal. Then you can easily say that pass from Messi was the best pass of the game, and without that pass, it was impossible to score the goal, right? So
in your analogy, who is Cristiano and who is Messi and who is Neymar and who is a goalkeeper?
Yeah, so we can easily attribute it back to or relate it back to the channels, right? So Meta, TikTok, Snapchat, Google Search, Pinterest, Quora, you name it, right? So we have so many channels where where businesses advertise and people consume content, and we need to think about, okay, where did this person come from, which channel he interacted with first, and how did he convert? If you relate the football analogy back to attribution models, then we can say first touch, last touch, right? So first touch is like the goalkeeper gets the credit, right? Or Neymar gets the credit. And last, like Ronaldo gets the credit, right? So yeah, we can go deeper into the channels and to the attribution models.
Yeah, awesome. And I guess like a point before going deeper into attribution is for anyone who's listening to us to understand. If you are having just one channel, you will not have any attribution problems. If you have just one channel, if you are a business who's running only meta ads and that's it, it's clear to you when you spend this much on this ad, you're getting this much revenue and you can track it. It's fine. It's not a problem. The complexity And the difficulty starts when you start adding more channels. And then you need to take the smart decision of, okay, now I need to spend my money wisely. Which channel I'm going to add to give it more budget based on the conversion data that you're receiving. Here comes all the complexity and the analogy of football that you brought up. And I guess what's really interesting about the football analogy is that they are all in football. They are not against each other. They are not playing against each other. They are playing as one team to deliver just one goal. Okay, good. So so now my question is, when should a business consider moving from one channel to multiple channels?
Yeah. I mean, they should move on if they have more than one channel, right? But I would like to go deeper into one channel first. I'll tell you a story. 3 years ago, during summers, I went to the UK. And relating back to my brother's business, I asked him, do you advertise on channels? Do you advertise on social? Do you advertise on search? Do you advertise on Google and so on? And he's like, no, I don't advertise.
At all? Zero advertising? Wow.
It's mostly word of mouth. It's mostly people who know the business from Amazon. They are coming to the site now. So a lot of retention and repeat purchases, but no prospecting going in the market asking for traffic, right? So I said, why are you not advertising? Let's advertise. Let's start one channel. And I think it's very important for every business who's starting out that they test one channel and see the impact. Because for businesses like where we work, right, it's very hard to see which channel is giving you the uplift unless you go really deep, do MMM studies and stuff. So I set up one PMAX campaign 3 years ago. He was getting like 10 orders a day from the site. And he started getting like 40, 50 orders a day,
Wow.
30 orders a day, orders with big values. And it was clear. There was one PMAX campaign that I set up in half an hour for him.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, 3 years later, that's the only one campaign that is still running in the account.
Wow.
There is no other campaign that's running in the account. So 2 conclusions from it. One is if you're running one channel, it's very easy for you to know if the sales picked up or not.
Because you have a benchmark of the current sales with one channel or without any channel. You have a benchmark that in the case of your brother, is he's selling 10 orders a day. And now anything above 10 orders a day, he knows that this ideally comes from the additional effort.
Exactly. And second is you need to continue with the campaign for a long time. Because my brother, he doesn't know anything about performance marketing or digital marketing. The only thing that I told him is the TROS, and that's what you need to play with. And that's what he does. And he just, plays with that. And even like most of the time he forgets and does nothing to the campaign, which is really good for the algorithm. So that campaign has run for so long that it has a lot of data, a lot of learning, and over time it is successful. And still it's the only campaign that's running. So that's single channel, right? Now, when should a business start thinking about multi-touch attribution is when you have a lot of channels, when you want to really see, okay, if social or Meta or Snapchat or TikTok is giving you results, or is it Google? Is it one specific channel? And in most cases, this question comes in when management or board or finance tells you have $5,000 of additional budget. Where would you put it? And then you think about, okay, I will put it in this channel because I think this channel works better. And you think that this channel works is because you must have seen some data either in the platform or in an analytics platform such as GA4 or Adobe Analytics or whatever you're using, right? So that's where you will start to look at, okay, channel mix, how different channels are looking from ROAS point of view and so on.
Yeah, but if we want to, for businesses that they are not as big as our businesses that they just have maybe one shop and they just testing with digital, they started one channel, it works successfully for them. Now they are thinking in their mind, should I consider adding more channel before the attribution and all of this? Should I add another channel to advertise on, like in the case of your brother. Now your brother have one channel, the PMax, Google Ads. When should you advise your brother to have and to go for more channels, not to rely only on one channel?
I think it's very important to go where your customers are, right? So it's always, you always go back to what your customer is doing, what are their needs. And in this day and age, where would you go? You will go where people are browsing content. Think about it. So you and me, where do we spend most of our day on our mobile phones? Do we spend more time on Google search, or do we spend more time on TikTok?
Google search. Like for me, it's Teams actually. Like Teams.
Yeah. No, I mean, think about it from a consumer point of view, right? So a normal consumer in GCC, for example, and a person who is 35 years of age, and they are interested in shoes, for example. If they ever want to buy shoes, where will they spend most of their time? My thinking is that they, in normal days, they spend most of their time on social media. And when they are inspired from social media, they will go on Google search, even probably they'll go on TikTok search and search for the types of shoes that they want, right? So in most cases, search gets a lot of credit because social inspires that search. So from an attribution point of view, you need to be where your consumers are looking for content and are consuming content, and be there, and then see how search can help you. Sorry, I lost the track of your question, but
so we would basically, yeah. So it's you were talking about how we should think about where the customer using which platform as part of their journey, and the basic question was, okay, when should you advise any business owners to consider adding more channels? So
you need to see what's your profitability level, or what's your CIR, or yeah. So yeah, I'll go there. And then what's your point of diminishing returns, right? So the point of diminishing returns is important to determine for each channel, because that's the point there where you know that spending more will not bring you more sales. So that's where you should decide, okay, I should go multi-channel. I have this extra budget. Maybe I should add in one more channel. So CIR, or ACOS, is cost to income ratio. ACOS is ad cost of sales. It's a reciprocal metric of ROAS. So yeah, if your ROAS is, let's say, 8, then you divide 100 by 8 and your CIR is around 12%, 12.5%. So yeah, you have to look at these metrics, whatever your benchmarks are from business point of view, and then that's where you should decide whether you can add more channel or not. I mean, in most cases, a lot of people, they dilute their budgets and they add so many channels that the budget is not enough for each channel to learn anything and do anything. They're very so like some businesses are ambitious, so they add more channels, but really what you should do is determine what's your point of diminishing return is, what's your CIR, what's the max CIR that you can pay, or what's the minimum ROAS that you can go for, and then see if you can add more channels. But apart all of this, like, don't think about attribution, don't think about channel mix. Just go back to the basics. If you are selling sweatpants, you should just determine the persona that you want to go for and see what those people are doing in their normal life. Like, where are they consuming content? Where are they searching for sweatpants? Where are they getting their inspiration from? Look at those communities, look at those channels, and start advertising there. Like, that's your starting point, right? And then, you have to capture demand somehow. So you have to capture demand through retargeting. You have to capture demand through search. It could be email. It could be SMS. It could be any of the other channels, right? So it's not just a channel mix of paid channels, but there's a lot of CRM piece that comes into play.
Yeah, I guess you have shared a lot of information, and we need to now to break it down. Okay, so in summary, if you want to consider to add, if you're a business owner or a decision maker, you want to consider to move from one channel to another channel, first you need to understand what is your are you want to scalable, or you're just comfortable with the profit level that you're getting right now? And if you want to scalable and you want to grow more revenue, sales, and profits, then you need to consider also, have you reached the ceiling of this channel, which your point of diminishing return is basically, in a very simple way, as I understand it, is the point of when you spend more on the channel, you're not getting more anymore. So this is, once you figure those 2 points, now you can decide if yes, you want to scale. And yes, if you have consumed 100% of the channel can get you, now you can go to another channel. And I would suggest just go one by one, especially if you have limited budget or if you want to do it in a very efficient way. Just go from Google to maybe Meta on Instagram, and then test it for a while, do the same, and then move to another channel. So that's a summary of what we discussed. Right?
Yeah, 100%. I think just to add a little bit is, and a lot in a lot of cases, it gets very complex because, okay, on Google ads or Meta ads, when do you determine that, okay, this is my point of diminishing returns, right? Because, okay, you might have tested one type of campaign or one type of objective, but have you tested like all different kinds of objectives? Have you really tried the full funnel mix? If you're looking at Google only, then have you tried display, for example, or smart display campaign, or campaigns with a certain target ROAS?
Lead gen campaign now.
Lead gen campaigns?
Yeah, a new kid and the blog.
Yeah. Demand gen, yeah. So, in most cases, it's super hard to really say, okay, this is the new channel that I want to try, and this is the time that I want to try, right? So, yeah, you will need to look at it from business context. And again, as I said, going back to basics, look where your customers are and advertise there.
And I guess your business decision doesn't have to be 100% correct. Like, you have to test every objective on the platform, because now the platforms, they are becoming so smart. They're adding multiple level of channels and campaign times that it will take you ages just to teach or to test each one of them. Yeah. So cool. So now as a business or a decision maker, I decided that, okay, it's important for me to go from one channel to another channel. And now I want to understand, how should I allocate the budget smartly on this channel, this versus this channel? Here comes attribution. Correct? So, okay. Now I want to just share a story before asking the question. The story is, I remember every time I talk to a decision maker or an executive and the word attribution came out of my mouth, they seemed 100% disengaged. Like, you look at this, oh my God, this is another technical term that he's going to talk about that really doesn't make sense to me. And it's very challenging. So the question now to you is, how can you explain attribution to a business executive in a very simple way? How do you usually do it?
In a simple way, you say, okay, this channel is performing better, or which channel is performing better, right? That's the easy language. But a lot of times you need to use the correct metric or correct word to describe something. Otherwise, like, you have to describe it in a scientific way, because if it doesn't look scientific, people will not believe you, right? So instead of saying Meta is doing better, you say on, let's say,
let's run a role play, okay?
Yeah. So instead of saying Meta is performing better, you say on last click, Meta is doing better. On first click, Meta is doing better. If I look at time decay attribution model, Meta is doing better. So things like that, right? Rather than just saying Meta is doing better, because then people will believe you more because you have really looked at the data. But apart from all of the attribution models, it has gotten even more complex with what happened in the past 5 years in terms of, iOS changes, zero-click spam, and, dark social, for example. In GA4, the direct traffic right now, and I've learned this from experience, because the direct traffic in GA4 has skyrocketed, especially after the roll of GA4. Like, what you see as direct, like historically what we always believed was direct is, okay, people typing in xxxx.com in the browser, and that's your direct traffic. But no, it's not that traffic anymore. There's so much other traffic that's attributed as part of direct. So you really don't have attribution anymore. So if I say attribution doesn't exist anymore, or there's no more attribution, that would be correct.
Wow, bold statement here. Okay, so let's run a role play first. Now I'm a business leader. I tell you, like, Faheem, you have 10K, additional 10K to spend on your campaigns. By the end of the month, you already took the decision. I didn't ask you what are the decisions. You took it. Next month, I ask you, okay, Faheem, I need to understand how did you do your decisions to spend this money on. First, which channel have you spent it on? Why did you do that? So what would be your answer? Just to play the role play.
Yeah. I would like to understand more about the business. So what business is it? What category is it in? What's business's brand awareness right now? How many years have you been in the business?
Just in a simple way. You can ask me the same question. Like, for example, you can ask me, you have 10K, I spend it. I'll tell you, like, for example, in this hypothetical scenario, like, I spent it all on Meta.
Yeah.
And then you ask me, like, why have you spent it on Meta? I'll tell you, because I've seen better numbers. But, like, he looks at the numbers and he can see Google Ads is bringing better numbers on the platform itself, on Google Ads or on GA4. So here comes a point of me saying, or you saying, or any digital marketer saying, it's because attribution. So now this is the reality out of it, that when we're going to explain it, we are explaining it as a word that we are expecting business leaders to understand, that attribution by itself is a very complicated subject that is not finalized.
Yeah.
So now if you can just share a story of course, something like this happened to you before.
Yeah.
How do you navigate those kind of situations?
To be honest, I think in most cases, a lot of business leaders, they don't really understand attribution. So telling them that we have looked at data from 7.0 point of view or 7.1 point of view, or I've looked at, let's say, certain attribution model, and these are the results. In most cases, business leaders will not really understand what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
This is my experience, right? So instead of telling them, I've looked at different attribution models, you don't need to tell all that what you have done technically. What you can tell them is what you really think what happened. So if you really think that your social is supporting your search, by adding TikTok, you have seen this much uplift in your channel, in your performance, you tell that, you report that, right? Mm-hmm. You report what you really believe in. So try to look at different attribution models, try to look at different channel mix, and then come up with your own, let's say, lift from each channel, and then you know which channel is doing well, and then you attribute back, and then you allocate budgets to the channels differently in the next month, or the additional budget that you have. In most cases, business leaders will not really understand attribution, and it's like your discussion is going to be even more complex.
Yeah, I guess this is a very good advice, because, and I agree with it. So if you are just starting, or you as a digital marketer or someone who's just starting with marketing, and you want to say attribution, just don't say it. Try to actually make it simple to business executives. It will be easier for them. It will be easier for you. And if they want to go through the details, yes, prepare the details and make it ready and present it. But just don't put attribution as a starting point of your discussion. You will suffer.
You will suffer. And just to add there, when you present the channel data to higher management, by looking at that data, a lot of times business leaders will say, okay, why are we not spending all the money on shopping or
exactly.
PMAX?
Yes.
And that's where the discussion starts, right? So that's where you go deeper. So that's where you say, PMAX is great, but then how are people getting to know about our product before they search the product?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's where social comes into play. So what you see in GA4 for Snapchat, like zero revenue most of the times, is not true. So that's where you go back to the channel itself and look at the channel data. So look at platform. So you then believe in platform data rather than GA4 data, because platform data is what Snapchat is reporting based upon the pixel that they have or the CAPI that they have on your website.
100%. And also, I guess this is very interesting. And just to make it very clear, we as senior people in our career, maybe we have learned how to navigate a certain challenge or a certain question a certain way. What we're trying to do here is to try to break it up to people who are just starting, so they don't have to go through the same mistakes that we have did. So we just try to explain to them the how to the skill or to answer the question. Now, regarding the point of attribution, just before going through direct and dark social, in the case of Snapchat you mentioned, I'm going through the platform, I'm seeing 0 conversion. What should I look at? And again, I want to cover things such as click-through window, view-through window, attribution window, all of this. So how would you look at, as for example, in the case of Snapchat, if it's 0 converting, how would you try to make sense out of the Snapchat data?
Yeah. I think you have to look at each channel from its core. And you have to look at each platform by its core. What you see in GA4 is last click, right? So that's...
GA4 by default is data-driven now.
Yeah.
It used to be last click, yeah.
Yeah. But still, you're looking at it from Google's point of view.
Yeah.
Not from Meta's or social point of view, right? Because Google owns GA4. So the connection that it has, or I don't want to be the devil here and say, okay, Google is attributing more for Google Ads, but it will clearly do it more because it's a native integration between Google Ads and Google Analytics. So you will see more numbers for your Google Ads campaign.
Yeah, 100%. And just to add to your point quickly, I remember I did an analysis last year and a half, I guess, when GA4 was just launched, and we got it for one of the businesses. And the analysis was there is a tool in GA4, it's to allow you to compare between the different attribution models. And the comparison was last indirect click, which is last click, versus data-driven. What was the difference? Very minor.
Mm-hmm.
So data-driven is even though the name is called data-driven,
yeah,
is actually last click undercover.
It's not really...
Yeah, but carry on,
yeah. So the point is, if you are looking at GA4, you really need to understand, okay, what is GA4, who owns GA4, and how the data is coming into GA4, right? So first of all, even before looking at your social data in GA4, you need to make sure that you have the right tracking, right? So you have the right UTMs.
Yeah.
You're sending traffic, and then you're seeing traffic in GA4. If you're not seeing traffic, of course there will be no revenue, right? So even if you look at if you see that there's 0 revenue for a certain channel, or there's very little revenue for a certain channel, what you do is you look at traffic. Is there enough traffic there? No. Okay. If the traffic is there, then there's a clear problem in terms of attribution. So it means your revenue is being attributed somewhere else. So how I developed my strategy over time was I came up with this term called attribution delta. You look it up, you will not find attribution delta anywhere, right? So
why should I look it up then?
Yeah, I'm not saying that I took it from somewhere. So I made it up. I invented it. So attribution delta is if you sum up the revenue from platform side. So you look at Meta and the attribution that you have in Meta. So you look at, let's say, 7-day click, 1-day view. You look at the same attribution on Snapchat and so on. So sum up the revenue from those platforms. You can do that for CRM as well, because Salesforce Marketing Cloud, HubSpot, I think most of these CRM platforms, they give you the attributed revenue as well. So you sum all that revenue. Let's say the sum comes down to $1.5 million. And then you look at your actual revenue, that's $1 million. So you have this $500,000 of attribution delta. It means you have over-attributed this $500,000 to all the channels. So now you need to determine which channel has the most attribution delta, and over time, try to calibrate the attribution windows in a way where you get these two numbers to be very close to each other. Like the number the magic number that you want is 1 million, right? So if you next month you did the same exercise and the number is 1.1 million, it means you have at least calibrated your attributions in a way that it's so close to the original value, so you have the right channel mix. So in most cases, to optimize the channels, you would want to look at platform data and not GA4 data. It's not that don't look at GA4 data. Of course, look at GA4 data, but if your GA4 data doesn't make sense to you, then go to the platform. And in most cases, in paid social, you'll have to trust the platform data because that's where your actual data is, right? Meta is going to report based upon its pixels correctly. And you can play with the attribution windows in a way, or look back windows in a way which makes sense most for your business. So if your sales cycle is 30 days, people come to your site, people come to your app, they don't buy right away. They take some time to convert. It makes sense to look at then 14-day attribution, right? Or 28-day attribution. And if you think that you're an e-com, your sales happen within 48 hours, within a day, which is true for most of e-com businesses, by the way. So when people interact with the business, in most cases, if they've made up their mind, they actually convert very quickly. So then it makes sense to look at 1-day click, right? So 1-day click is the most accurate or kind of last click attribution that you can look at it from platform side, right? So I mostly trust platform data rather than GA4 data in terms of optimizing paid social. We can always play with the look back windows, but that's where I go. And then also you can't really compare Meta versus Snapchat the same way, because in Snapchat you have even more complicated attribution windows, right? You have you also have 30-day view in Snapchat, which you don't have in Meta, for example.
Not anymore.
Yeah. I don't think Meta had ever 30-day view. Like, you always have 1-day view, but Snapchat gives you like 30-day view as well. So if someone watched your video 30 days ago and then converted, no matter what they did after, if they converted, Snapchat can report that data. And also they have hourly look back windows as well. So you can also look at, let's say, 1-day click, 1 hour view, a 2 hour view, or 1 hour view. And then that's where you start.
Yeah.
That's where your attribution starts, and then you can go deeper. So then you can go looking at all aggregated data from an attribution software, a multi-touch attribution software, or an MTA. So where all of your data is being collected from all channels, and that's where you look at these different models, right? That's where you can build your custom data driven. That's where you can look at last click, time decay, and so on. And that's one way of looking at it. And then there are other ways, for example, doing conversion lift studies or doing MMM.
Yeah. And I guess this is very interesting because, like, in summary, what I get from what you have said is that basically is you cannot just rely on one source of data. Even though if you believe that this source of data is a source of truth, you cannot just rely on it 100%. Otherwise, you will miss the mark. So, for example, to give an idea, so first you have the data from the ad platform. Then you have another layer, which is GA4, which gives you data. And then, of course, if you have an app, then it will be the data from the MMP. And then add to it, usually comes your own business data, which after removing the canceled orders or the returned orders and all of this. So you have like 3 or 4 sources of data. Of course, from a business perspective, the last one, the one that has the back-end data, is the source of truth. But even though you understand that this is the source of truth, you cannot rely 100% on the Tableau dashboard or the Looker dashboard that you have in-house that tells you that this campaign brought more revenue versus this campaign, because it doesn't tell the full story. So you need to be able, as a performance marketeer or as a digital marketeer, to look into multiple data sources to try to understand what is the closest reality to the truth that you have or to the numbers that you have.
Yeah, 100%. And also, as I said before, there's no more attribution. Like, we live in a world which is so complex, and even more for digital marketers, right? If you look at the opt-in for iOS, I think the average is around 20%. So that is the Apple's ATT prompt. When you open an iOS app, so if you're an app business, you install the app for the first time, you open the app, and Apple is going to ask you, or the business is going to ask you to allow them to track your data. So it can be used for, different purposes, tracking, analytics, advertising. The numbers are improving right now because of a lot of people are doing the ATT the right way. But still, I think the average is not more than 20%, which means 80% of the users said, don't track me, don't track my data, which means these 80% of people are not reported back to MMP or GA4 or even your ad platform, unless you have CAPI or Conversions API, right? So if this 80% data is not there, then how do you attribute? So there's no more attribution in a way, right? So you live in a world where this iOS killed attribution, zero click killed attribution, dark social killed attribution, right? So not just looking at multiple sources of data, but also understanding that there is very little attribution in all this anyways, right? So what you're looking at is like partial data, model, CAPI. So don't just trust the data blindly, right? Do something that is very different. For example, what I did recently was we created a coupon code for each channel. And this is going back to 1900s. So, in 1900s, the newspapers, there were only newspapers, right? There was no digital marketing, right? So how did businesses advertise? They advertised in newspapers. And when they advertised in newspapers, the way they track performance was, if you have 5 newspapers and you want to see which newspaper is doing well, what would you do? You'd give a different coupon code to each of the newspapers. That's very easy to track then. Okay, this coupon code is doing well. And then you make a decision. Same with the channel mix. So what we did recently was we created a different coupon code for each channel, as you do for different influencers, right? Or different affiliate marketing websites. So then okay, this coupon code is giving us good sales, so then this is the channel that I want to spend more on, right? So yeah, understanding this landscape of how attribution has evolved over time is also important. And now people are thinking about, marketing mix modeling, which is MMM, or media mix modeling, which is like a fancy way or more scientific way of measuring how each channel performs or which channel is doing better.
Yeah, and I guess this is very interesting, like especially the point that what we can discuss right now is about how attribution is dead. And I guess your point is about like the old way of relying on attribution is dead, like the old way of taking it as your own Bible or as your own source of truth is dead. Because I can ask anyone right now, if you just went to Meta and you look at your conversion, you will find a 2 mark next to the conversion. And when you just hover your mouse over it, it will tell you that those conversions are actually modeled. It's not reality.
Yeah.
Just a number that they came up with from a statistical model.
Yes.
That you have zero input.
Yes.
Of how it worked. Like they don't share, like Meta or the Google Ads, or they don't share with us any idea or any based of how this model worked.
Yes.
So it's like fugazi. It's like
yes,
not true. Yeah.
Also, just to add, you need to have the right tracking expert, like people who are really good at implementing all this technical pixel stuff. These days, there's there are different businesses who are built around this tracking, right? So they do this for you. But just make sure that you're reading the right data, that you have the right data or the right integration. Without the right integration, you will look at inflated data. For example, a lot of times what I've seen is the staging website or the dev website is also sending data back to your platform. So you see these all test conversions also inside Meta platform. You think, wow, I'm making more orders, but no, you're not. So go to your events manager, look at it by domain and see a breakdown, and you will understand that, okay, it's not really my orders. It's also people in dev team who are testing orders. So having this clean data as first step is important. Understanding basics of attribution is important. Understanding channel mix is important. And I mean, big businesses, they have resources, they have budgets to also think like broader, develop in-house attribution teams or analytics teams to really look at data deeply. Also, I mean, we have learned all of this by experience, right? A person who has just started in digital marketing or data analytics, they will not be able to connect all these dots together. So bringing all these people together as a head of data analytics or a CMO, it's really your core role. One, to make sure that people are educated enough in terms of all this landscape, and then build something that is really, true, like a true view for the
something that is robust to actually build this kind of data that is clean, well integrated, and makes sense for the business. So actually every stakeholder of the business and the team are working with a right vision of the reality of the business. Awesome. Now let's have a discussion about the points that you mentioned previously regarding direct traffic and dark social in GA4, how they are, the two of those, working together.
Yeah, I think, I don't know why they are not fixing it or why Google is not paying attention to this, but we are just seeing more and more and more direct traffic. And if you look at this direct traffic, it's a lot of, so whenever you're missing a referral data in the URL, that's where that direct is attributed, right? Also, the channel landscape is different because if you open a link on Instagram from an ad, it's not going to take you to the browser. It's going to take you to its inherent browser, which is owned by Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Snapchat, same thing.
Yeah.
They will not let you open the link in another app.
They call it in-app experience.
In-app experience, right? And what's the point of this? So what is the point of Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok? Like, what's their core business? Like, and this is true for every business, but it's actually mostly true for paid social platforms. Is as a principle or as their core KPI is to keep you in their platform.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want you to go out of the platform.
Yeah.
And no one would, right? If I own my own app, I would always try to make people or keep people in the app.
Yeah.
And the moment I send them outside the app, they're gone. It's very hard for people to come back if they go out. That's why all these, like all big apps, they have built these native browsers.
Mm-hmm.
And these native browsers, I'm not really sure how this traffic is being attributed back to GA4. But a lot of times what happens is when you come from a WhatsApp link or an Instagram link or a DM or Messenger, you go to the site because you click this link, you go to the site. The referral part of the URL is gone. So when that's gone, GA4 thinks it's a direct link.
Mm-hmm.
So it's someone who's coming directly to the site. And that's how direct is inflated. And that's how all your paid social and all your affiliate and all your other channels are going down, right? And dark social is becoming more and more and more. And we all know what's the best way of marketing? Word of mouth.
Yeah.
And word of mouth is all dark social.
What is dark social in a simple way?
Dark social is basically all your communications with your friends, family, colleagues, people who you know, and they send you a link, which is basically not trackable. And when you click on that link, it's not trackable anymore. So in a way, it's like dark social. So it's a dark link.
Yeah. So basically, any kind of social media traffic that comes to our platform that we are unable to track, so incorrectly we track it under direct.
Yes.
I remember I have seen a direct correlation between how much, like, for example, if you decided to switch off your paid by a certain percentage, there will be a direct correlation on the direct traffic coming from it, which this is very interesting because if you think about direct, and if we are assuming that direct traffic are people who are coming directly to our website or just opening the app directly, there shouldn't be any reduction on traffic or sessions, but in fact you will see a minimum of 30% direct correlation between what you spent on paid. So for example, if you decided to shut down all paid traffic, at least you're going to lose 30% of your direct, if it's not 50 or higher. Which again, it's in the point again of there is things that Google actually cannot track, and they are loudly putting it under direct, such as WhatsApp, such as specifically on TikTok and on Meta. And they don't talk about it, and they don't share any updates about like, hey, we're trying to fix this and we're facing issues.
Yeah.
And I guess we need to be very mindful, especially when we are budgeting for next year or for next month or whatever. And especially for now, every business, they try to be so lean with their budget. They need to, every business right now in the region, because also of the economical situation, they need to be putting the right budget behind the channels, and they're reducing the budget year over year. And for that, we cannot just assume or rely that direct will stay the same while paid is going to be less. Otherwise, we are going to have a mismatch between our targets and our actual performance.
No, 100%. I think it's very important to be brave and shut different channels to see the impact on your business, right?
Oh yes. Have you tested it before? Have you did it before?
I haven't been brave enough, but I would love to do it.
Yeah.
I think I've done this at some point, but not recently. And that's where the conversion lift study comes into play, right? So you do these conversion lift studies on platforms itself, but it's best to do a conversion lift study of your own by doing a very different channel mix in a month. But life is complicated. So we are in August. September 2024 is not the same as September 2023. What you do in September 2024 by shutting off your meta ads will not have the same impact that you had in August, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because purchase behavior is different, seasonality is different, and we live in a region where seasonality is, oh my God, like you see all this sales spike during salary week. Last 7-8 days of the month, they are always high in sales. So if you do it month on month, like year on year, not between months as well. So think about, okay, if you're doing it in September, okay, do the same thing in September next year. So you have to keep all the rest of the variables the same. Make sure that you are not running other awareness campaigns and your brand partners are not sending you traffic and things like that, right? So it's that's why it's super hard and so complicated to really even test conversion lift study, because shutting off one channel in 1 month will not give you results. Maybe you'll need to brave enough and do it for longer
2 months or 3 months.
Yeah, for a longer period of time. And that's where, as I said multiple times before, marketing mix modeling comes into play.
Yeah. And I guess right now, and as you mentioned, like all the ad platform are in the business of actually capturing our own data. And you can always have a very easy way to measure the effectiveness of any channel. Just talk to the business of the potential of switching it off. Not even a left study, because a left study usually is a little bit more complicated and it has attachment toward how much budget you're going to spend, etc. But like, especially for small business, they can do this. They can just switch a channel for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and they will say, okay, we're going to observe how our revenue, how our users, how our audience are going to react with us. If we receive the same revenue, then awesome. We have learned something new, that this channel actually has no impact to us. But if there is any reduction or any gap in revenue, then...
No, it's true. 100%. I think channel mix is super hard. So you have to do a lot of experiments. But I think one quick or easy way to determine if the traffic is quality traffic. I mean, if people are not converting on your site, it's not all the time it's your channel problem. It's your own problem. It's your website problem. It's your app problem. It's your UX problem. It's your product problem. It's your business problem. It's not a channel problem. So think about it that way as well. And a lot of times looking at software KPIs, time on site, bounce rate, and look at recordings from Hotjar or any other UX or session recording platform to see how those users are going through the funnel, and if they are converting or not. So it's not always channel. It's not always channel. Sometimes it's also your business.
Yeah, very interesting. I guess this is like a very insightful session, Faheem. Do you want to cover anything before we finish this session?
I think we discussed this a lot. Maybe next time we can talk more about MMM.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. Because it will need a session by itself.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Faheem, for being here with me. Thank you.
Reach for more before we miss marketing.